Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what will probably go down as one of the most epic recaps that I've ever made on this channel. If you've been here before, welcome back. If this is somehow the first chess video you click on, welcome to the world of chess. We are jumping into the quarterfinal of the Esports World Cup. The first time chess is included, $1.5 million at stake. And Magnus, Carlsen, and Hikaru Nakamura repping not just themselves, but also their teams, Team Liquid, and the Falcons. Here we go. We've got Magnus and Hikaru in the semifinal, but before that, I'm going to recap how we got there from the quarterfinals. Folks, I don't even know what to say. You really, if there's ever a chess video that you watch that's the entire video, you might as well do it today. We kick things off with the very first quarterfinal. We have Nihal Sarin versus Magnus Carlsen. Nihal, last chance qualifier, knocked out Anish Giri and Maxim Vachier-Lagrave to get here. We boot up game number one. We have D4, Knight F6. The first game that they played was a draw. It's 10 minutes, no bonus time. Magnus plays kind of an unorthodox setup, B6, E6, H6. Nihal playing his usual queen's pawn shenanigans with the knight and the bishop and everything. And from the early game, we got a trade in the middle with this type of pawn structure. Bishop E7, D6, and A6. This is a very, very formidable setup. It's kind of what's called like a hedgehog sometimes in certain Sicilian defenses where the E and C pawns get traded. But in this case, it's not exactly that, but it still kind of resembles a spiky little thing. And black will rely on different pawn breaks. We'll rely on play over here. We'll try to maybe trade off the dark squared bishops. Let's see how Magnus goes to work. Rook E8, again, this is Magnus playing the next generation, right? Nihal is one of the best players in the world, rated here 2792, but perennial 31, 3200 level blitz and bullet player. Knight E3, bishop F8. It's going to be a slow maneuvering game, as we see Magnus having 6 out of 7 pawns on the 6th rank. Nihal does not repeat the position, looking for a way to break through, but this pawn right here that Magnus gets in the middle of the board is going to grant him the option to push forward in a little bit. And once he pushes into the middle with E4, suddenly the white position is going to fall apart. It's going to be very difficult for white to coordinate pieces with black kind of coming down the board like this. Nihal tries his best, knight to H4, Magnus grabs the bishop. Material is even, but Magnus maintains a positional advantage. In comes the knight. He will trade and try to plant the knight over here and hammer away at these pawns with his bishop and the knight in the long run. And I'm literally just going to keep clicking the forward button because Magnus plays B4 like I just said, planting the knight in the middle, using the pawn. You can't take it because queen F2 is lights out. And we advance on the queen side. We're going to win ourselves a pawn. We have a 1-pawn advantage. We have a minute-and-a-half advantage throughout this game. No slip-ups. We end up the game up the rook for the bishop, and short of a complete disaster, he will just go on to win this game. Again, 1 minute, 40 seconds up on the clock throughout this game against the player that is Nihal Sarin. He is a very, very good player. He is very tricky, very fast, but it's not going to be good enough. You can bring your A game. It doesn't matter. When Magnus brings his A game, you have to bring, I don't know, you have to bring your A game and maybe a baseball bat to hit him with. One last little trick here. If you take the bishop, it is a stalemate. Magnus wins against Nihal Sarin, and in the very next game, he won with 97% precision. I'm just going to show you the game. It was a queen's gambit. It was a little bit of a sideline from Nihal. Knight to D7 doesn't particularly matter. Black at some point will play, in a very normal way. And I just want to show, look at this position. Very stable. Nothing special. Central pawns are exactly where they are. Magnus ultimately castles queenside. He goes on the same side as Nihal. And watch as he performs a perfect positional game. He notices that there are weak squares. He notices that he has ideas to attack over here with the knight standing in front of the king. Nihal is going to try to create a little bit of counterplay. Magnus stabilizes that side of the board before slowly, watch this, slowly bringing the pieces to the left side of your screen. He's going to play A4. He has a very straightforward idea. A5, A6. All right? A5. And Nihal tries to stop the attack. It turns out that stopping the attack actually makes the attack even more powerful. He accidentally pours gasoline on the fire, and Magnus bulldozes, absolutely bulldozes the king's castle position. Pawn takes, rook c6 attacks the queen. It also, that was the check, by the way. He was checked, he had to move his king. It also gets the pawn near the king, rook c7, and you simply cannot stop this. There is no way to prevent it. Nihal Sarin is a monster, and Magnus Carlsen showed up and qualified to the semifinals so emphatically in 3 games. First game was a draw. He had some chances. There was nothing Nihal could do. Nothing. Like, Nihal would have beaten probably 6 out of the other 8 quarterfinalists had he shown up and played at the level. You can't. When Magnus plays his best, there's literally you have to have the baseball bat. I'm telling you. Now, Hikaru is also trying to qualify for his spot. Now, his match against Levon Aronian, they just played in Las Vegas, if you're a longtime follower of chess, where Hikaru had an advantage throughout their knockout match, but Levon ultimately won before going on that magical run. Now, this game doesn't really matter, but I'm going to show it to you. The opening doesn't matter. It was a Berlin. None of that is interesting. All right, Hikaru got a decisive advantage in the endgame, completely winning if he played Rook B2 or Rook B1 and looked to literally checkmate Levon. He is completely winning here. He's completely winning because White isn't a mating net. Now, again, he has 157, so the game goes back to being equal before Hikaru gets a totally winning position again, and then the game becomes a king and rook endgame that looks like this. Now, in this format, keep in mind, you play to win on time, 20 seconds versus 5. Then Hikaru channels his best impression of a GothamChess subscriber and hangs a rook! He hangs a rook while trying to beat Levon on time. And Levon is up a rook. He's up a clean rook. And he has 3.4 seconds to checkmate. I'm not sure it's even possible, because you would need to pre-move perfectly. I don't know how you pre-move in 3.4 seconds, and he doesn't, and the game ends in a draw. Like, he has 1.1 seconds. From here, you got like 10 moves. I mean, I'm not sure you can do it. I'm not sure you can pre-move perfectly. Doesn't really matter. The game ends in, oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, shout out to all my casual fans, as you were so called by, somebody in the chess world. Hikaru versus Levon, game number 2. Again, it's a best of 4. Now, in this game, this was incredible, Hikaru. This was Queen's Gambit declined, all right? By the way, Magnus is coming back, all the other... I told you it's going to be a long recap. Strap in. Queen B2. Levon actually had an advantage throughout this game, but it was not so easy because his king was weak, and he made one easy move, and now he's not doing very well. So Levon is a pawn up, but White has a lot of pressure on the left side of the board, on the queen side, and Hikaru is going to apply pressure there, try to win one of the pawns back. He does win one of the pawns back. Levon goes for some counterplay, and now a very nice move, Queen B7, asking many questions of the black position, to which black does not have many answers, because Knight C7, you simply disconnect the material, and this one was like, you ever been on a ski lift or a ski slope? It just went straight up, like linear, all right? And yeah, Hikaru, absolutely no drama in this game, cleans it up. He goes from a pawn down to 2 pawns up, a 3-pawn turnaround, excellent game, beautiful middle game, gets it into a queen endgame. He's going to promote his pawn. Levon resigns. Amazing game. Hikaru showing why he's the number 2 ranked player in the world. No questions. Like, literally no questions. I mean, he played like a little bit of a way where he gave away a pawn and Levon was better, but he had to be very precise. And then, just when you think, like, Hikaru's going to punch his ticket, Levon shows up and plays, I think, the best game that I've seen in the entire Esports World Cup. I've never seen something like this. So we have a Berlin. This opening killed chess in like the 2000s. It's still trying to kill chess, but most people just don't allow it anymore. It's called the Berlin endgame. Doesn't really matter, but the point of the endgame is that you have a 4 sequence of moves from the opening that leads to this position. Very interesting position. Black can't castle. Black's king is in the middle, but there are no queens. And Levon plays Knight C3 and A4. I've never seen A4. I've seen Knight C3. Normally White does some stuff. Black puts the bishops out like this, and then there's a lot of like little subtleties that I don't understand, and I'm not going to pretend to understand to tell to you, because I'm not an influencer that lies to my subscribers, except for the fact that I might become a grandmaster one day, but that's a totally separate story that I can unpack with my therapist. Anyway, it doesn't matter. A4. Bishop E6, A5. Now, the idea looks pretty obvious. Maybe White wants to advance over here. Levon, also showing that he is a GothamChess subscriber, plays Rook A4. Yo. I mean, I'm sorry, but A4, A5, Rook A4 looks like you are a 500. I mean, it looks like you just like learned how to move things on the edge of the board. Rook A4 has multiple ideas, like coming in to attack this pawn, and also sometimes stopping the knight from going to H4 to trade off. I looked at this, I was like, what is this? What is this? What is Levon playing? Guess what? It works out. Because ultimately, Hikaru plays b5, trying to get a little counterplay, trades off on the left side of the board, and Levon is going to infiltrate. The rook somehow makes it in. Hikaru plays bishop c6, and suddenly there are tactics in the position. Rook d2 looking to trade. Black's king is in the middle. He's trying to get his rook out. He blunders. e6 check! Levon reaches across the table. No, it's too far. I was going to say, and he throws a punch. Not too far. Can't take because there was a fork with the knight. Bishop c4. Hikaru resigns because knight g6 attacks the rook, attacks the bishop, and threatens to promote. Levon just struck back. I was watching this like, what? Oh my god, this is unbelievable. So you got to go to a fourth and final game in this match. And I mean, when I say these guys were trading classy blows like the entire time, another Queen's Gambit, just a very solid, very positional game. Hikaru likes these type of grindy games that have a little bit of play, a little bit of mystery in them. Levon, a very dynamic player, but I mean, it's hard to generate dynamics in this position. c5, right? Hikaru puts the rook in the middle, castles, very solid game, just trying to play against the isolated pawn. And this game ends in an insane way. It was totally equal, 7 minutes per player. Levon could have played h5 to shove the knight into the middle of the board and then maybe move the rook somewhere. He also could have maybe brought his queen out. He goes here, and this is the trick. The trick is queen to h6. And Levon obviously either didn't see queen h6 or underestimated it, miscalculated, because not only did he allow queen h6, he allowed queen h6, like the queen, not just the threat of it, he just allowed queen h6, thought for a minute, and resigned. So, back-to-back incredible games by these two players, and kind of like this. It's not so epic. Levon's magical run in July coming to an end after he won Vegas Freestyle, after he got in through the last chance qualifier, made it to the quarterfinals in this event. But it's kind of crazy. I mean, h5 and the game would have kept going. But Hikaru is the second semifinalist, and he qualifies to play Magnus Carlsen, which is coming up. We are 12 minutes into the freaking recap. We haven't even gotten to Magnus Hikaru because they played the quarterfinals and the semifinals in the same day. Unbelievable stuff. Now, let's take a little time out. There are other people in the world not named Magnus and Hikaru. I know you don't believe me. I know you might click on something else in the sidebar now. You can do that. But if you're not a casual fan, stay and watch, all right? I think actually even I'm a casual fan, to be honest. Now, Nodirbek versus Alireza Firouzja. This one was wild. So, in this matchup, again, best of 4, Nodirbek is down 2-1. He's down 2-1. This is game number 4. It opens up with this system where white gets a position like this. This is a real opening. I know it looks completely ridiculous, but these pawns are here. They are looking to promote. Black is looking to generate some counterplay on this side of the board. Actually, the top computer move here is pawn to g5, but Alireza goes here. Castles, rook a7, solid. Nodirbek is going to build up his position as well, trying to push those queenside pawns. Queen c3, rook a4, and queen f6. Both guys obviously have their sets of ideas. He's trying to trade the queen. He's trying to checkmate his opponent. He's trying to not get checkmated. But now the rook can infiltrate, which it does. And Nodirbek putting up a very, very strong fight not to get eliminated. And I'm sweating because it's very hot. c4, knight to d4, looking for this. Looking for an attack on g5 potentially. Rook a7, making slow progress. And within a few moves, Nodirbek actually got a crushing position. Rook to f1. He is much better. But it's very chaotic. But look at the time. I want you to pay attention to Alireza's time. Nodirbek sacked his queen to have a knight, a pawn, and a rook promoting. Now, knight, rook, and pawn, yeah, all on this side of the board. Now, watch this. 38 seconds to 147. Nodirbek just has to hold it together. He just has to hold it together. 129 to 31. He's up a full minute. Alireza Firouzja has 31 seconds on the clock. Nodirbek just has to, he just has to move around. He literally just has to make random moves. 25 seconds. Rook g4, rook h4, rook c4, rook c6. And now, rook here, and here, if you give this check, and here, rook f6 is the winning idea. rook f6 is the winning idea because you attack the pawn on f5, and if rook f6, f4, the knight gets in. That's the point. The knight gets in, you sneak the knight into the black position, and then you are winning. You can play rook f6 and try to get the knight into the position. He goes here, pawn to f4, rook c4 attacks the queen, and Nodirbek Abdusattorov, with Alireza Firouzja having 12.9 seconds on the clock, loses the rook like this. And not only does Alireza win the rook, Alireza then goes on in 11 seconds to sacrifice his queen for a back-ranked checkmate. Takes rook b1. Alireza Firouzja is a semi-finalist. This dude is for real. Yo, he is a nightmare in low-time situations. Now, Firouzja would qualify to play the last... Well, I don't know why that happened. That was ridiculous. Let me just make sure that that doesn't happen again. That does sometimes happen in these recaps. Some of these boards reset for whatever reason, which is super annoying. Anyway, I don't know why that happens. So I'm going to go back now to the events overlay. Jan Nepomniachtchi versus Arjun Erigaisi was a wild back and forth match. This was a Catalan from the early opening. It was Jan who played a very, very nice position and actually got a nice little advantage with two bishops, typical Catalan pressure, but Erigaisi turned the game into a fight. We got rook back to d7, weak squares in white's territory, f3 and d3, bishop f6. Erigaisi planted the knight on the d3 square, doubled the rooks on the d file, traded off the bishops, tried to secure the knight in over here, but at any moment he's going to move knight b4, rook d2, rook d3, etc. is possible, rook d3, rook a3, and Erigaisi got a totally winning position, which he simplifies down to an endgame and knocks out Jan Nepomniachtchi. c3, c2, b5, b4. The game is just over. He just pushed the pawns up the board. Rook a1. You cannot stop these two pawns. The madman, representing Gen G, makes it to the semis, and he is going to take on Alireza Firouzja. But let me tell you something. Firouzja was on another level. He was on another level today. And this semifinal was nothing like the semifinal that I'm going to show you right after. Magnus Hikaru today did the impossible. We're 17 minutes into this video, and we are still yet to get to that matchup. Now, Alireza was sensational. Against Arjun, he was playing a little timidly, a little slowly, but he was playing a lot of different openings. He was making positions uncompromising, very complicated. They had a lot of different openings. They had a lot of different structures, like, h5 to defend the bishop, right? Very combative chess, very creative chess. But Firouzja was frequently down on time. It's like one of his signatures. He's always down like a minute or two. He's always playing very interesting chess, very enterprising chess. He's always getting into fights. But he does take his time. Knight f8, look at this. Straight down the middle, right at Erigaisi. These guys are like the future of the next... Both born in 2003, by the way. They both were born in 2003, and I think they both have 2003 in their chess.com usernames. All right? So, like, you talk about two icons of the year 2003. I think Hans Niemann might be born in 2003, too. Might be 2004. 2002? I don't know. Bishop e5, and watch as Firouzja's like, yo, why did that happen? This is not the first time this idiotic thing has happened on the events page. I don't know why this keeps happening. All right. I was going to show you the technique that Firouzja employed. So we're going to go through it. He promoted his b-pawn ultimately. The pawn and the Catalan bishop that he played from the very beginning survived the entire length of the endgame. And there was one moment here that Erigaisi could have ran his king back. But Firouzja was just more clutch. 17 seconds versus 30 in these scrambles. He was so clutch in these time scrambles. It was unbelievable. And he beats Arjun Erigaisi 4-1 to qualify for the finals. And his opponent is Magnus versus Hikaru. That's who he's going to play. Now, before we go there, because I don't want any spoilers, chess.com, fix your nonsense. I don't know what's going on today. I don't know why it's so buggy. All right, I'm going to refresh so this doesn't happen. And you don't know who won. And if chess.com staff is watching this recap right now, anyway, I hope you're all doing well. You're going full screen. You're getting to see me sweat. I'm sure these players were sweaty after these matchups as well. Oh my goodness, folks. Magnus versus Hikaru did not fail. It did not fail. I mean, okay, here we go. Buckle up. Game number 1. D4, D5. Hikaru plays his signature opening, the mutual Queen's Gambit. We have pawn takes D5, Queen D5, and Magnus kicked out the queen in the early opening and went for a queenless and light squared bishopless middle game. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, Magnus is going to try to do what he always does. He's going to try to play a slow, grinding game versus Hikaru, right? So what he's going to do, knight to B4. Hikaru looking to trade, Magnus like, no thank you. Rook D1 centralizing, and then infiltrating with knight to F5. Ideas to hit G7, ideas to go to the D6 square. G6, bishop G5 attacks the weak knight. Every move, there's pressure. He jumps in with the knight. This is called an interposing move. Now you get in the way of the black rook and the knight on F6. So bishop here, Hikaru castles, but he's always going to be passive and not massive. And when white plays the move A3, you're going to be able to play knight here, etc. G4 is an amazing move as well, trying to just lock in the bishop and take as much space on the other side of the board. G4 is the top computer move, by the way. If you showed this position to a strong player, I don't know how many of them are ever going to find this concept. G4 is the top computer move. This man is not human. Knight to A6, rook D5. There are some small inaccuracies, obviously, because you have 4 minutes on the clock. Hikaru's not going to go down without a fight. Magnus ultimately controls the pawn structure, and it's just a matter of time. Grabs the pawn on A7. Rook C1, he dominates the 2 open files. Beautiful move. Attacking the rook, looking for knight D6. Trades, knight here. And this is typical Magnesian school of chess. This is under attack. We don't even need to protect it because we have F4 and rook D7 incoming. He's going to get the rook to the 7th rank. Rook F7, rook B7, knight E5. The game is over. He picks up the rook. He's got 2 extra pawns. Hikaru resigns. When I saw Magnus win like this, game number 1, I was like, oh, it's going to be a very short match. He's just in form. Not only that, he hasn't lost the game. Like, Magnus hasn't lost a game in Saudi Arabia. I think he's like only made draws and won. Like, I don't remember him losing, which is scary. I mean, when he's playing like that, yeah, it's just gonna be miserable. We go to game number 2. Okay, now in game number 2, this game is the epitome of a game of being a Hikaru fan when he plays Magnus. All right. So it's, Hikaru playing kind of like a Catalan type of thing early on in the game, Magnus being very annoying, looking to trade the queens off the board, and Hikaru kind of trying to, maneuver the queen around and looking for something. And then guess what? Magnus, of course, succeeds in his mission, doesn't want Hikaru to have any play, rook C1, and yet Hikaru finds something. He finds something. He's at 6 minutes on the clock. And then Hikaru's much better. E4. Putting all of Magnus's pieces, connect 4 on the 7th rank like this. Rook B6, he's just a pawn up. He's a pawn up. Magnus goes E5. Hikaru starts, wait a minute, I gotta play for a win. Hikaru's up 1 minute and 10 seconds. Up a pawn. I'm watching this game like, oh, this is, okay, I mean, it's not easy. Playing Magnus, king B7. Now suddenly the rook is feeling a little unsteady. Hikaru 25-second time advantage. Rook B6. Bishop E7. Hikaru playing B5. He's so close. He's so close to breaking through. Knight A5 is the best move. Hikaru goes rook C6. King D7. You're looking for the way. How do you bishop C3? Magnus blunders. Knight D5. Knight D5. 140 on the clock. But wait, he just had 225. He spends 45 seconds to find this move. Now, King D7. White is winning if you play bishop to B4. Bishop B4 is winning because if bishop takes B4, you have rook takes C7 and you infiltrate, you win all the pawns. But it's not so simple. Bishop B4, rook D5. And then if pawn takes D5, right, the bishop can take the bishop, but then B6 is winning. And Hikaru repeats the position and makes a draw. And, it's like one of those things, like, it's almost a recurring thing, because you're like, oh, Hikaru's always getting some chance. It's kind of like me playing anybody strong literally in the world. It's like Hikaru versus Magnus and me versus literally any grandmaster on the planet. But you're like, no, why didn't you? Now, it's not so simple. The thing is, even if Hikaru played bishop B4, he has 1 minute and 20 to figure it out. And not everybody is Firouzja. So Hikaru draws the second game, which means it's 1.5 to half. Magnus goes back to work, all right? He has the white pieces in this game. We have a King's Indian defense, which I'm like, what? King's Indian? Wow, that's bold. I mean, it's an opening that works. Of course, it's a very, very good opening. I just made a course about it on Chessly, but, it's hard to make it work, in the era of computers. It gets very provocative. H3, G4 by Magnus, restricting Hikaru's pieces on the king side. Now we have knight to D7, Hikaru transferring the knight over here, playing the bishop to D7, and all the pawns are going to start advancing. The pawns are going to start advancing. F5. This is idea number 1. Then he's got ideas like C6 and B5 and A4. All sorts of ideas in the King's Indian defense. Pawn takes. And you're going to watch here as Magnus kind of looks to scramble. He puts the knight on G5. puts it back on f3, but he weakened the light squares. There you go. He would love a future if a knight or any piece could get to g6. But Hikaru's doing very well. b4, Magnus tries to kick out the knight. Hikaru plays knight a6. And watch this. c5, securing control over important squares on that side of the board, knight b4. He's coming in on the left and the right side of the board. I'm like, yes, let's go, Hikaru. This is what we need to do to win. Knight b4. Now Magnus hides the king in the center. It's pretty safe. It's pretty safe. Now he's trying to remove the pieces. Bishop d8 is nasty. Look at this infiltration idea. Knight b4, bishop a5. The bishop gets in, but the white king is looking around like, nobody can get to me. I'm safe. Queen a1, king h7. Magnus goes queen a6. He blunders. Here he probably saw that black suddenly has a nice infiltrating idea, and he was like, I'm going to beat him to it. But Magnus's queen gets locked inside of the black position. I love that these two guys have played thousands of games against each other, and yet they still manage to make masterpieces. The queen is trapped. The queen has no moves. Suddenly, you thought this entire time that black was going after the king. The queen overreacted and suddenly is locked into the position. At this point, the crowd erupted because they were all Falcons fans. They're playing on home turf. Bishop c8, bishop b7, rook a8. The white queen perishes. Queen a8, bishop a8. Hikaru plays pawn to f3, clearance sacrifice, in on d2. Magnus Carlsen resigns. It's 1.5 to 1.5. Hikaru Nakamura makes a comeback, attacking everything in the white position, playing a King's Indian defense. This dude is like 100 years old. I'm kidding. He's like 38, 30, 37 and a half. But he plays an opening that he literally played for some 15 years. He turns back the clock, plays an opening that he played throughout his teenage years and his 20s. Oh, it's just so epic. It's just so awesome. I mean, it's just so impressive. It's just so impressive. Goodness me. Okay. Next one. d4. Magnus now has the black pieces. Remember, it's best of 6. d5. c4, e6. Knight f3, knight f6. It's a Catalan. Castles. Right? b3, b6. Hikaru now tied match. That was Magnus's first defeat. Right? Bishop b7. Bishop f4. Rook e8. Nice and solid. Nice and solid. Knight back to d3. h4. Keeping it nice and easy. Knight a4. Okay, bishop to e5. Hikaru looking for target, going here, 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 etc. Knight into e4. Now, the position's very complicated. There's obviously a lot of different variations, a lot of different complications here. But overall, this is not the Catalan that you want with white, because you suddenly don't have any targets, and black is playing very actively in the middle of the board. Bishop goes back to b2. Magnus shuts the door. Now, if in the Catalan, white's bishop on g2 is bad, and white doesn't have any clear targets, you kind of end up in a position that looks something like this, where black suddenly begins taking over the game. Bishop to a3. And in comes this knight. And suddenly you're like, oh man. Oh man. This is Magnus doing Magnus things. He's going to put the knight on c3. He's going to put it, it's not even the best move. Doesn't even matter. Queen b7. Hikaru picks the pawn up here. Magnus picks the pawn up here. He's going for that pawn. He's going to win these two pawns, and these pawns are going to decide the game. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Queen d8. He has a 2-minute time advantage. Trades off the queen, going for that second pawn. Queen endgame, queen and rook endgame. And right here, Magnus played a4. And he looked at the crowd and went like this. He looked at the crowd and went like this, because they were cheering for Hikaru in the previous game. Obviously. You know? They're cheering for their guy. He plays a4. It doesn't matter what you take with. The pawn gets through. Hikaru resigns. Magnus is up 2.5 to 1.5. Which means that if he wins one more game, he clinches the best out of 6. I got way more games for you, though. It's not over. This next one, Magnus playing for a win? No. I mean, I would not argue this is playing for a win. This is playing for solidity. Trying to restore a little bit of order in the position. Daring Hikaru to beat him. But this is completely symmetrical. And we have a rook endgame. There was one moment right here. Hikaru could have given a check on d1 to try to win a pawn. Doesn't really matter. This game was the most peaceful. This is the one where they go take a little bit of a water break, which sets us up for the potential final game. Game 6 always delivers, by the way. in the World Championship. It's 3-2 Magnus. It's must win for Hikaru. He plays d4. Magnus says, come get me in the Catalan, an opening that I have studied extensively. I'm going to grab this pawn, prove it. Queen c2, a6, mainline Catalan, queen c4, putting the bishops out. This is an opening Magnus has studied. Both guys have studied. Knight d5. Hikaru going for a very fluid pawn structure. But Magnus so experienced. b5, Hikaru c4. The best move. He's going to put some pressure on the queen side. Magnus like, all right, see you, Hikaru, with your little c file, right? Like the bishop on g2 might come alive at some point. h6. At some point, white has to play in the center. So Hikaru's he had to go faster. Here, it was maybe the last moment. And throughout this position, actually, he could have played e4 a little bit faster. Like, I think here, maybe he could have he tried to go for e4, but he waits too long. Magnus plays c5, understanding exactly how to play this position. You have to play aggressively, you have to play emphatically, you have to sacrifice a pawn to speed up the position. He does exactly that. The pawn is now passing. He's up a minute and a half. And not only that, he's better. And before you know it, he's not just better, he is much better. Hikaru's trying. Hikaru's trying. But it's -1. It's deep into the -1s now. Rook a4. You're going to trade off a few pieces. Rook d8. Magnus trading the rooks. He's going to push the c-pawn. Oh my god. He blundered. He blundered that the pawn is not going to be able to defend this knight against this pin because when the knight moves backwards, there is queen c3. Magnus Carlsen just blundered the match he has to play Armageddon. Oh my goodness. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. A backwards knight move. It's 3-3. These guys now have to play an Armageddon game to settle who is going to join Alireza Firouzja in the finals. This game costs like $50,000. Friendly reminder the way Armageddon works in this format. You bid for black. You bid to play the color where you have the two results. Hikaru bid. Can't be out here spoiling this. I'm gonna triple check that we don't have a game here. Hikaru bid 6 minutes and 12 seconds. What that means is he starts the game down 3 minutes and 48 seconds to Magnus. But if the game ends in a draw, then Hikaru wins. And what opening does he play? He turns back the clock again. We go King's Indian, baby. King's Indian. You need a game. You need a game that's going to make Magnus think. Hikaru just beat Magnus twice. Nobody's beaten him even once in this format. e5, castles, knight c6. This is pure main line King's Indian. b4 is the critical modern move. Hikaru plays a5. Magnus plays pawn takes a5, which is the critical modern move. Hikaru plays c5, which is not a critical modern move, but now white invests fully on that side of the board. This opening works really well in high-stakes situations. Rook takes a5, rook e1, knight e8, Hikaru plays f5. Why does this opening work so well? You don't have that much time. You cannot possibly calculate, you cannot possibly remember your preparation. Knight g5, Hikaru plays knight c7, so well-versed and experienced in these positions. The pawns are coming now. He's going to try to play g5. Knight f6, queen f6. Suddenly, look at the advantage. Look at the advantage. The time is around 3 minutes still, the advantage. But the advantage is only plus 0.5. Bishop c3, g5. Right here, Magnus misses an amazing opportunity. He has an opportunity here to play some tactics which get the rook over to this side of the board. He plays knight g4, and he has bishop takes pawn and rook f3, which almost win the game on the spot. But he misses it. And in 2 moves, he's worse. He's worse. Hikaru takes the pawn on a4. But if he had taken with the bishop, okay, worse is a strong statement, but he lost all of his advantage. Hikaru goes here. Magnus plays rook takes, rook b6, rook a3. And this move is perhaps the most impressive, right? You just play king f1. You stop any knight e2 tricks that we're going to get to your king. Rook a2. Hikaru, knight d1, another great move defending against mate. Hikaru got within 1 minute and 17 seconds of Magnus in this Armageddon. He needed to play a move like bishop to f5, or even something like rook back to a8, maybe looking for a trade potentially, or various ideas like that. But he goes here. And just like Magnus trapped his queen on the other side of the board, Hikaru traps his rook on the other side of the board, and after queen b1, it simply dies. Armageddon is high-stakes chess. You wager a second result possibility to go down on time. You lose the rook. Magnus Surgical is going to trade the knight off immediately, is going to seal the queen and bishop apart from each other. Bishop e6, queen g6. That's mate. That's mate if the queen doesn't guard the bishop. That's mate. And he resigns. Magnus Carlsen versus Alireza Firouzja will decide the final of the 2025 Esports World Cup. And I just want to say something. This was such an unbelievable thing to watch live. It was so epic. Magnus gave an interview where he said two things. He spoke two things that were unreal. First of all, the shush at the crowd, epic. Then losing the next game, just like sports karma. I'm sweating. It's so hot in this room. Magnus was asked how he felt and how he managed to pull it together in the Armageddon. You know what? I've never heard Magnus say something like this. Go watch the interview. He said, I'm paraphrasing, he was so nervous. He was like almost shaking. He knew what the right moves were, but he couldn't even get himself to play them. Like, it was so tough. It was so raw to see such high stakes chess on display. And then he said the crowd pissed him off that they were cheering for Hikaru, and he took out his bow and arrow and he shot one falcon out of the sky, and tomorrow he's going to shoot another falcon out of the sky, which is Alireza Firouzja, which is just like, I mean, like, what more do you want from the best player in the world, man? Like, this dude is making chess cool to a wide audience. That's all I have to say. All right. I wish, actually, like, you know, I wish we see, and I tweeted about this. I wish we see these matchups more often, like Magnus, Hikaru, Firouzja, Gukesh. Like, I want Gukesh to be playing in these events as well, you know? And all the other young guys, all the guys, you know, in the generation that, yeah, that's all I have for you today. Epic stuff. Tomorrow we play for third place, Arjun Hikaru. We play for first and second, Firouzja Magnus. Get out of here.